It's a Grimm day, and we're going to be talking about the Frog King. This tale is also known as Iron Henry, Faithful Henry, and the Frog Prince. This is the story of a princess who spends her time at a well on castle grounds, and one day she's playing with a golden ball that slips from her hands into the water and sinks. She's incredibly distraught that her ball is lost, but a frog offers to retrieve it for her. But of course there's a catch. In exchange for bringing the golden ball back to the surface, the frog asks that the princess take him back with her to the castle to be her companion. He has to be allowed to sit with her at the table, eat off of her plate, and sleep in her bed with her. The princess makes a quick promise, and the frog retrieves the ball, but then the princess just hightails it home to the castle and forgets about the frog. The frog hops the entire way to the castle, and when the princess is eating dinner that night, the frog knocks on the door. He calls out for the princess, and she goes to the door to answer it and is horrified when she opens the door and sees the frog. Her dad, the king, is like, "What are you so afraid of? Is there a giant outside that's going to steal you?" And she's like, "No, but there's a frog that I broke my word to." Her father reminds her how important it is to keep your word and invites the frog in to the table to eat off of her plate. After dinner, the frog is so exhausted from jumping the entire way to the castle and eating all of that food that he asks the princess to take him to bed. Now, the princess hates the frog, hates it. She is disgusted by the frog, and she does not want this frog anywhere near her bed. So instead of picking the frog up and putting him on her bed, she picks him up and she hurls him against the wall as hard as she possibly can. I should have put a disclaimer if you're not familiar with Grimms. They're pretty intense. So the frog hits the wall and immediately turns back into a prince because he had been bewitched by an evil witch, and for some reason the princess throwing him against the wall breaks the spell. And even though the princess broke her word to the frog, screamed in his face at the door, treated him like garbage at dinner, and then threw him against the wall, the prince is like, "We are going to get married and live happily ever after because you broke the spell." There's nothing in the story that tells us what the princess thinks about all of this, but they do end up leaving the castle together. When the Frog Prince was human before he was bewitched, he had a faithful servant who was known as Faithful Henry. And Faithful Henry brings a carriage to pick up the Frog Prince and the princess who he is now going to marry. Faithful Henry tells the Frog Prince that whenever he was bewitched, it hurt his heart so badly because he had so much love for the prince that he had to have 3 iron bands put around his heart just to keep him alive. On the way back to the Frog Prince's castle with himself and the princess in the back of the carriage, Faithful Henry's up front. He's driving the carriage. They hear a cracking sound, and the Frog Prince thinks that the carriage is breaking. Faithful Henry assures him that it is not the carriage breaking. It is just the iron bands around his heart breaking because he is so happy and has so much love in his heart that the prince is safe and that he's going to live happily ever after with this princess who hates him.